Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah. So today we'll be covering statements, right? Now you have to be little attentive now because this is very important. Okay, and like basically, if you see, if your data types are right, your different organs in the body, then if statement and loops are the heart and brain of, so we have to put more attention on this and try to understand as much as possible, because whole whether you will be a good programmer or a bad programmer will depend on how we are handling if and loops. If you know where to write if and loops, conditional operators and iterations, you will become a good developer. Okay, and irrespective of which language, for example, there are few front end guys here, right? For you also, in your domain also, it will be very helpful, because now we are entering into towards the logical part of the coding, right? So data types might be different in your domain, but conditional operators will be exactly same. It might happen that even the syntax is exactly same for most of the conditional and iterative operators. So we'll start with if. If falls into a category of conditional operator. Okay. So what do you mean by a conditional operator or conditional logic? Okay. So can anyone tell me what do you mean by a conditional operator? Yes. So basically, if in order to see, now yesterday we understood why do we need programming language, right? We need programming language to solve our day-to-day problems, right? And in order to do that, we need to understand how items or objects will be in our day-to-day life. That we understood, right? Objects we understood. And objects are nothing but a real-time entity of your data types and classifications. Like data type is also a classification, and then you'll get more complex classification later. One part is that, but at the same time, for example, we can understand something like this. Now, road is a classification, right? Now there is road. You can define what is road. But now you left from PTM to your office, and you had to take a right turn near the flyover, right? But you could not make the decision, right? And you'll keep going straight. You will not reach to the destination. Then you will not be able to meet the expectation of your programming. That actually you wanted to train your program to take right, but this is a decision making, because road goes straight also and towards right also. So until unless your programming has a decision making capability, you will not be able to fulfill your tasks. And it is very simple, very common, very evident that you need a conditional operator or a conditional statement, right? And usually all the conditions have only two results. Either condition will be true or it will be false. For example, whether you have to take right or go straight. When there is a branching. Now some of you might question, so what happens if it is a four-way? You can take left also. And I say yes. First, we have to check, like when you get into that kind of situation where you have to choose one from multiple available options. Then what is your primary concern? For example, when you are going to straight road and you get branching, first question should be should we go straight? If yes, we'll not check anything, right? Then should we take right or left? Doesn't matter, right? Because once you exited the primary, after then what is the next important thing? You can prioritize whether you should take left. If the answer is no, then it should take right. And there is a default condition also. You don't know what to do. Take U-turn and come back home. So you can give a default option which if either of the above conditions or expressions here is not matched, then we'll take a default route. So we'll try to understand this also. So now we are getting introduced to if statement. By name itself you understand it is asking question. If you are doing something, okay, and the result will determine what to do. Again, till now you have already seen how to write a program, right? How to declare a variable, how to perform arithmetic operation. But here you see, usually when you write a statement, right, then you terminate the statement with semicolon. Can you see the statement getting terminated here? No, right? Because if statement works in terms of coding block, because if the result of the expression, now you see if, can you see the syntax? If number greater than 10, and then do something, right? Now in the square, like small bracket, you see my number greater than 10, right? This is an expression, right? What is an expression? Basically a set of equation that will lead you to a single result, which usually in mathematics you might have got this kind of thing, solve this expression. Sometimes they'll give other things also, but when they say expression, it leads to a single output, okay? So, and especially in terms of statements, it will give you a result, and result mostly will be in Boolean type, okay? Or you will evaluate the result in Boolean type, and that's why you see use of what operator? Logical operators, because logical operators give you Boolean result. So expression uses logical operators, okay, and it will give you the output either in true or false. Understood? Now if statement is a conditional statement. Basically it evaluates a condition, and based on that it gives an output. Let me show you the example. You are only office stationaries? No, you are not. Good. You have washed off your hand from this. Okay. So we'll just if exp, and then this is curly braces. Basically this is called a block, okay? Irrespective of this, like, can you just put the camera a little up? Little up. That. Thank you. Yeah. First, lose it, put it into this position. Yeah, done. Okay. So this thing, this is curly braces. Again, I'm writing like this. You understand this is curly braces. It should look like this. Don't follow, try to follow this. You might not understand. So this is called a block. Right? Basically, any code which is underlying in this block, right, will follow this. Right? That means based on this block of code will get executed. Okay? So you can see the example, do something. Basically there you can write some set of code. Okay? Now let me write something here. You are able to, okay, sorry. Then for me it will be a problem. Okay, yeah, I can see it. Chalo. For example, we had a console dot read line. Okay, and then we will collect it in, say, string name. Clear? If name is, okay, let it be null, then we will say okay. Now we have a else statement. We'll discuss on else, but time being, just let me write. Okay. Can you understand the coding? Okay, so basically what code says is we'll check if the collected data is input is not there. That means if it prompts, for read and we don't provide an input, it will say please provide an input and it will terminate. Now you understand it will not go back here again. We'll modify the same code to do that as well. But as of now, okay, this output is here. Now, why we are not able to see any output? Exactly, we are waiting for the input. You should not have confusion in this, because first line of code itself is read line. Now, what is the output here? Okay, that means the value we are getting is not null. So we'll say OR operator. Okay. Name dot, there is a length property, you remember we had, okay, is equal to 0. Okay, and we'll do another modification. Okay. So now you are getting confused that what's happening. Now at least you see input like this, and my cursor is waiting down because I have given right line. It's waiting down to provide me, so I'll again not provide any input. Now what is the output it is showing? Why? See, now my coding basically, because it was not generating null value here, okay. So second option what we did is we tried to check the length because we have not provided any input. So at max it would have returned a empty string, a non-null empty string. That's why it was not getting into the criteria of null. But because there is no length, okay, Sunil. Okay. Because we were not having any length on the string, so we were getting that error. Now what we'll do, we'll try to input okay. So once it runs, again it will ask me my name. This time I'll provide my name. Now what is the result here now? Welcome. Okay. So now program is behaving as expected. Clear? Because now length is there, so my logic is working fine. Okay. Let's come back to our this thing. Now you see what if does is here, it simply runs an expression. In our case we were checking two different criterias. So how many logical operators we put? We have put 3 logical operators, and there were 2 different expressions. First one was, it was checking whether the yes, it was checking whether the name what we were taking as input is null or not, and the output for that was false because it was not a null, it was returning a empty string, but a null, not nullable empty string, okay, because it is initialized. So you have to understand, it will return null when it is not initialized, right, when it is declared. So when you initialize it, then it will be a non-null empty.
There are 2 conditions that is being checked in this case, right? If name is equal to null,
Yes.
is only when you type in your name as null, it will.
Yes, or else if it is uninitialized string.
Exactly. So it is only checking 2 preconditions and not 3. Either of these.
We
name
have
equal to null,
yeah.
or the name length is 0.
Correct. That second one I will come little later. I was trying to explain, you can have a variable declared with empty. See, having a variable being null, it will is different, and being empty is different. Okay, that means when you have just created a variable, but when you have not initialized it. But in this case we have initialized it, so it is not null, but it is empty. So we understood the mistake we did in the first time, and then we added one more condition, that we started checking length of the string. So I am sure because I have not passed any input. So if it is not null, surely length should be 0. Okay. So in the second condition we have checked for length. Clear? Now see, we have, suppose as I told, right, like suppose when we were taking the example of roads, and when we have branching of roads, it might not have key only it is going towards right, it might go into different. So what if the first condition fails, but we have other conditions to be checked? It can be done by other statement called else if. Okay, wherein again everything will remain exactly how we write if, but it will be prefixed by a else statement, and it denotes that it is part of the same big block. So when we are writing, let me select this. When we are writing if conditions, you see everything is one block. First of all, till if is not getting terminated fully, it will first go with if fails. Second, it will come to the first else if condition. For example, in this case, string is hello. You will write something like in our example. For example, when from BTM we are coming to HSR or say V software, okay, we can have like go straight, okay, and then you say, did you come to what is the flyover name? Electronic City flyover, right? Then what is this called? Silk Board flyover, right? Again, you have 3-4 conditions. You will check, do you have to go straight? Yes, we will not check the other precondition. Again, we will go ahead whether to climb the flyover or go from the left, right? The first condition will be, should we go ahead? Again, the answer would be yes. Okay, now there are different routes. I am just trying to follow one. Then there will be a third if statement. Again, these two before is the separate if blocks, right? With if and else if. Like if you are taking right, again, if first condition, but in both the previous cases we got the first condition else only to be true. In the third one, should we go ahead? First answer is no. When we reach to this, the Agra Lake flyover, answer is. Then should we take right? Is the or say second option is, second statement is, should we take left? Answer is no. It will come to the third statement. Should we take right? Yes. You understood? So you need multiple if in a particular order, if statements. Sometimes after first it is irrelevant which one you are checking, but sometimes there is an order. So try to understand your logical conditions and then write if statement. Okay. So we have already seen in our example how to write multiple in this one else. So last one you see else, right? Basically when there is a default condition. Okay. What do you mean by default condition? I will tell you. Default condition is something that if primary condition fails, you have to do that. Okay. For example, you want something, for your house. For example, pack of Maggi. You go to shop. You ask for Maggi. He gives you Maggi. Then what he'll ask again? Money. Then you have only two conditions, right? If you have money, give. Else, go back and get it if you want the product. There is no other options, right? If you don't have accounts with them. You have to give money. So sometimes there is a default condition. Sometimes, most of the time, there will be a default task that needs to be performed when the primary task is failed. Sometimes you have only if. For example, when I am coming to house, office, check if you have sunglasses. If answer is yes, wear it. Else, leave it. You don't do anything else, right? So sometimes only if is needed. Sometimes multiple if else is needed. Sometimes along with if you need a default condition. Sometimes with multiple else if, at the end you need the default condition. Okay. So when you need the default condition, you add it. When you don't need, only if block is enough. Now your question might be, what happens if I don't have anything to be executed after if? You can write that. You can write a semicolon to terminate and you can write it, but there is no point. If there is no block of code, or suppose if you don't want to write this block code, that is curly braces, what that? You can do that also. For example, I'll remove and code will behave exactly the same. So can you see any error? It won't give. If you run the code also, it won't give any error. It will behave exactly what it was behaving before. Okay. You see what is the first one, first line? What it is showing? Right. Now again I will run this. Again it is asking my name. I will not enter. What it is showing now? So then what is the use of giving the block code when it is not making any difference? Now don't tell me that it is for beautification, right? Because it is not. So why we use this block code? Yeah, see, I'll tell you. When you don't write the block code, I'll give you an example. Now there is another line. And we just write hi. Okay. Now you will see the difference of this. Yeah, it is asking me to provide the name. And suppose if I don't provide, what it is showing? No, what is showing in this one? And see, what it means is, if you see my code, the second line is not considered the part of this if. Otherwise, only this line would have been executed and this would have come to an end. So suppose if you have multiple lines of code in if or else block or any block, that's why I call it block code, to grip the, to group the entire block together. If you write it here, it might give an error. It's not giving. Let me see if this works. Yes, it will give an error. Why? Because it won't expect else here. Because for the compiler, if condition is terminated here only. If you don't give a block code, it will only consider it till one line. So next statement, whenever it encounters, will be the last statement for the block, because we are not grouping it together. So when you encounter this else, it means this is out of place, right? They might be expecting else only here. If you don't get, it means it will let me remove this, and there won't be any error. I can run the code. The code will run as expected. Let me type something, and it will, because length is not null, apart from type your name in console, apart from that everything else will be printed, right? And let me run it again. Okay. Now suppose if I am I'm not passing my name. Okay. Then everything will be printed. You can see, type your name in console and then it will try to print your name also. Because only one line is considered as part of this statement. Rest all will be if you are not putting a block. Understood? So that's why we are putting block to demarcate the boundary. Understood? What is the use of code block? Okay, so that it groups all the code under, so everything will be under this if statement and everything will be under in the else statement. And this is very common because rest whatever you are going to write now, everything will have a code block. Okay. Now, if is clear, do you have any problem in if? No. Now back to back also you can write if block like this, where first if block is logic A and second if block is logic B. Usually you don't do that, but you can do this also. You can do nesting of if. What do you mean by nesting?
Loop inside the if statement, another if statement.
Again,
Inside that.
no, what do you come again? Like explain me again.
Nesting means inside one statement we are creating another statement.
Okay, yes. So basically, nesting means like it is like how we see a nest, right? You have, when you have seen any nest in real time, they'll put one stick on the other, it will be all intertangled. So basically, putting any statement under the same statement is called nesting of the statement. For example, you can put a if statement under another if statement. For example, when you are checking if number is greater than 10, okay? Inside now you have to say if the number is between 11 to 20, you want to categorize, do something else. If it is between 20 to 30, so you can put another if statement under this under if statement. So that is called nesting. And you also do nesting of lot of things, like for loops also you can do nesting, for if condition you can do nesting. So for most of the statements you can do nesting of the same statement or some different statement. So you can do nesting of the same statement and you can do nesting of, like for example in if you can put a loop, in loop you can put a if, that also you can do. You can also put loop under loop and different kind of, like you can put a while loop under for loop or a for loop under a while loop. So those things are all allowed. Understood? Anybody has any confusion in nesting? Okay. Now there is an alternate of if, that is called switch. Now anybody knows what switch statement is? Okay. So basically, again here also you might have an expression, but now expression is not only expected to have a logical output. Okay. For example, and this is little different than if, because if you can only evaluate on true or false, whereas for example now you have to write 10 different ifs if your road is branching towards 10 different directions, or say forget about roads, something else where branching is more. And then see, if is advised, if you want to write if, you write when it goes till if, else if and else. If it goes more than 3 level, you should consider writing switch, because switch doesn't evaluate the expression every time. It evaluates it once and then based on the result it takes, because it can take many forms. It can take a form of string, it can take form of integer, it can take, because it just compares the result with the case. For example, in this C, switch my number, right? Now here my condition expression is output of that could be a integer, right? And then we have case 1, 2 and default. Again, default is something like else, right, where there is no statement, where there is no expression. If nothing else gets executed, this will get executed. Okay. It can have a string also, like if your output is string, then you can check with the string, if A, if B, if C, something like that. Okay, so you have more flexibility here. Apart from that, one more thing is there, which switch doesn't support, sorry, case doesn't support. What's that? For example, now you go home, like nowadays people don't do that, but when you are in native or something, when you come home, what you do? Outside there will be either hand pump or there will be a well, right? Take water, wash off your legs, hand, go inside, right? That is the one condition. Now there is one more additional condition in this only. If you have touched anything dirty, by mistake you have stamped on something, like dog's poop or something like that, then there is another precondition. Now you will not only wash your leg and hand, you will take bath also and then enter in the house, right? Now we have two things to do in the same process. Now for this you have to write two different expressions, in your if statement. Whereas in switch, suppose case 1 and case 2 is written such that if case 1 is true, case 2 also will get executed. But when case 2 is true, so in the case 1 you have written if you have stamped on poop, then follow this instruction, and then there is a break statement. Can you see that? Break is to demarcate, after that you exit the switch. But if you remove the break in the first condition, it will carry forward and execute second statement also without checking anything. So sometimes if you have condition under condition, like you have to do this additional work also if there is a event, otherwise you only do condition 2 only, you don't have to do condition 1. In that case you can use switch much better. Switch is much more intelligent than if. But you need to again find out where to use if, because using if is very easy, okay, and most of your logical operation is done with yes or no only. So when you have more complex scenarios wherein you need to have a more diverse output from your condition, then you can use switch, and especially when you have more conditions but only one of them will be executed based on the output. For example, I'll tell you one thing. For example, there is a multiplication and the number is greater than 10 and less than 20, you have condition 1. 20 to 30, condition 2. 30 to 40. Here what you'll do, you'll write 4 different conditions in if, and then first if, and then you'll check whether first is there, second is there. Here what you can do, you can just multiply and put this thing as input. Then you say case 1 less than 20, right? Case 2 less than 30, case 3 less than 40. You can do that, so that you don't have to write multiple statement. It is just like you have written one statement, like one expression, and then you are evaluating, you are executing your different. And then again, default is something like how else works, your default works. If any of the conditions are not true and you want to do something irrespective of anything else is true or false, then it will be written under default. Okay, we will check the same thing. Okay. Now if we have to evaluate the same thing in switch, okay, and then we'll write name dot length. Case 0 and then and default. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll just copy this should be out. Okay, yes. Okay. Suppose if I am not providing any input, what is the output? Okay. What is the output? Okay. So you understood? So exactly same behavior. For example, now suppose your output is this. Now you can say, okay, this is very basic. Now let's understand there is a case called Hemant. And here, because we know Hemant is a admin. Okay. Now we'll again evaluate all three scenarios. First one very simple. Is it behaving same? Right? It is saying on the console, right? What is it saying? It is saying your name. Please type your name on console, right? Okay. Now, second one. First we will check the existing behavior, because now we have changed the logic. There we were checking the length. Now we are not checking the length. I have just provided something. It should say welcome this to console, right? It is showing that. Now we'll provide another logic. We'll check Hemant. What it is showing? Now you saw with length, we checked because in the previous logic we were checking with length, right? Now we changed the logic altogether, and the output of the length was an integer. But now name is a string, so we change the game. If the name is double quotes, so it is a string, but it is a empty string, right? So it will say provide your name. If it matches with Hemant, we understand, we process it differently. Now this is also a name, but any other name will say welcome to console. But when Hemant is admin, we treat it differently. When we encounter Hemant, we execute separate block of code. You understood this? So in this one, with only one logic, so only one expression, we did more things. So this is faster. But you need to know when to use it and how to use it. Because using of, like when you are using switch is little complex than if. So it is little complex, but it gives you more flexibility in terms of how to use it, and it is much faster than if. So if you want to attain the speed, you can use switch. Okay. Clear? किसी को doubt है? Anyone is having anyone else? You should say if you have a doubt. You should not say no when you don't have a doubt, because anyone else who is, trying to ask question, you are just killing that. Okay, you also understood. Now I will not ask. Okay, so basically you should not discourage anyone to not ask questions. If anyone, otherwise I will ask questions, and if you don't answer, then you know me, right? I will try to embarrass you guys. No, nowadays I left all those things. No hitting. All are grown up kids. Now they know what to do. Okay. Now this is the example I was saying, right? In the case 1, there is no break. Okay, we can see this thing in the same example also. For example, let's break this. It means why it is it won't run now. What is the error? Hmm? That's it. Here what it is showing?
Control cannot from one place to another.
Okay, wait. You can do this, I think so. It will not go by default. Here also it is asking me to break. Okay, I think so because it is string, it is not allowing me to. Still it is not allowing. Okay, okay, sir. Continue is not there. No, it's not.
Continuous operation.
No, no, not that. This was allowed to check. Probably in the newer version, that is, and there's a lot of glare, I am not able to. See, here it is clearly saying that, right? Directly, if you want to handle more than once, you can do this. Okay, so I'll just check if it is being removed in the newer version or something. Otherwise, you could actually slip through from one statement to another. Okay? One second. Hers, should we continue or because loops will take more time? Okay. Okay, that's it for today. Okay. Now, my sincere request is you guys start, reading now because things are getting more complex. It's better you guys start reading and, ask questions. Till now, I'm not getting questions from you guys that you were trying this and then you got stuck at somewhere. Once I'll only understand that if I am able to convey, the topic properly, only if you guys will get doubts. If you're not getting doubt, it means that you are just staying in the class, go back home or, come out of here and then forget about the class. So try going through the topics, especially from data types onwards, because all topics are very, it's not complex, but it's very important. You need to understand the basic concepts. Few of the people, right, they think that, they want more complex things. But The reality is there is nothing called complex. All the complex things are made up of, these basic things only. And if you don't understand this thing in depth, like if you don't understand how a statement works, how a loop works, how variable behaves, how it is stored, then and how it is classified, which one to use, you will never be confident enough to, write the code. Right? You will always be afraid inside because you are not good at the basics. So if your basics are clear, and you know how to break bigger chunk of work into smaller pieces and then start coding, you will never be confident enough. I will teach you how to do complex works. You don't worry about that. But you have to do this thing for me, that is, you at least understand the basics clearly. If your basics are clear, then one thing is guaranteed, whether you are doing C# or any other programming language, you will do very good. Okay, but if your basics are not clear, even C# will be very difficult for you guys. Okay? Okay, then I'll terminate the class for today. Tomorrow we'll continue with loops.